Hey everybody, and Tony here with my review of Strauss's Arabella with once again conductor Sir Donald Runnicles, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. This marks the second time I saw this particular production of Strauss's Arabella because I wanted to see and hear Gabriela Scherer sing the title heroine, as she was supposed to sing her during the premiere. But ever since Sarah Kubiak took over as Arabella, she initially called in sick, but this time she ended up singing the role full time. Ever since I saw and heard her initially as La Contessa d'Almaviva from Mozart's Le Nozze di Figaro in Dresden, I was quite impressed with the metal that she had in her voice, as well as the potential that she had to keep on growing as a full lyric slash spinto soprano, considering that Gabriela Scherer started out as a lyric mezzo before finding her true calling as a full lyric slash spinto soprano. And as I heard her tonight as Arabella, I thought that the metal in her voice did grow. There was a certain steeliness to it that was quite evident when she was singing her lines. And there were also occasions of good vocal coordination that she had in Und du wirst mein Gebieter sein and Aber der Richtige, as well as Mein Elema and Das war sehr gut, Mandrika, aka Arabella's 4 solo arias. Moreover, she did imbue Arabella with sufficient charisma, charm, and lovability that made me, as the viewer, root for her. Despite my words of laudability for Mrs. Gabriela Scherer as Arabella, I noticed that there was a wobble prevalent in her vocal production. It was evident in the first few acts of the opera because there were occasions in which that wobble meant that she could not find moments of better coordination in Und du wirst mein Gebieter sein. And there were even occasions where some of her chest tones weren't really that clear, but she did have them. But her voice did get better in the final act of the opera, which was where I thought she shone the most. All caveats aside in terms of Gabriela Scherer's wobble and that tremolo that was evident, as well as some vocal inconsistencies like collapsed head voice and unsupported chest tones, I could still give her some credit where credit is due in terms of soldiering on throughout the opera and being such a committed singing actress. I still miss that clean, clear, pure, and much fuller emission evident in old school singers such as Lotte Lehmann, Margareta Teschemacher, Eleanor Steber, and Lisa de la Casa, especially where Lotte Lehmann and Eleanor Steber were concerned because of the fullness and richness as well as the completeness they had as Arabella. But issues that I had with Gabriela Scherer aside, I still thought that she did a decently commendable job in her portrayal as Arabella. My only advice is, with that steeliness evident in her voice, I highly recommend that she does not try her luck with much heavier roles such as Isolde or Brunhilde, because I fear that the more dramatic roles would do great damage to her voice. Now that she has roles like Zenta from the Fliegende Holländer and Elisabetta from Don Carlo, as well as the title role of Tosca in her repertoire, she still needs to be very conscientious and cognizant about her choice of repertoire, and very cautious because she does have the potential to continue singing the full lyric and spinto soprano repertoire, as well as continue to develop her technique in the right way. I do not want to see Gabriela Scherer's voice go away anytime soon, especially in 5 or 10 years' time. I would still love to see her on the world's opera stages because she does have fine material to work with, but in terms of her ever-growing repertoire and the faults that I heard in her voice, I would still recommend her to be as cautious, conscientious, and cognizant with her choice of roles so that she can preserve her voice for many years to come. Otherwise, she still demonstrated sufficient commitment as a singing actress as Arabella, and she still did well as Arabella, stealing the show once again as her younger sister Zdenka was the ever fabulous, ever wonderful, and ever pristine Elena Zalagova, whose technical prowess and whose pristine technique managed to be in fuller evidence as well as continuously be intact from beginning to end and in everything that she did, is doing, and will continue to do. And what I noticed about her performance as Zdenka tonight was that she added in more vulnerability and more soulfulness to Zdenka that was a lot more evidenced in this performance in stark comparison to the premiere. So she did a much more committed job as well as a more laudable job as Zdenka than when I first saw her. Yes, the only caveat is that some of her chest tones were rather hollow, but if I take away all those caveats, her top notes and her middle notes were still as blazing as ever, and her consistency as a singing actress and as an overall artist remained unparalleled. So brava to Elena Zalagova for continuing to do such an outstanding job as a singing actress and in everything that she is continuing to accomplish. Russell Brown is way better this time as Mandrika in stark comparison to when I initially saw him in the premiere. His voice did gain in fullness and richness, and he was able to sing his lines as naturally as possible, but there was a sign of fatigue during the penultimate moments of the opera, but at least he managed to resuscitate what he could still muster in those very final moments. And as I stated before, I still miss that richness and roundness that I love in baritones, let alone bass baritones, such as Hans Hotta, Herman Ude, and George London, who were not only great mandrikas, but were also great votans as well. But Russell Brown's commitment as a singing actor remained intact, and he was solid all the way through, even though his voice is not completely ideal for something like mandrika. But I still have to give him credit for his commitment as well as providing Mandrika with that sufficiently masculine charm, which was delightfully roguish and unexpectedly noble. Robert Watson continues to sing up a storm as Matteo, as his vocal resources were much stronger than ever. How he was able to attack those high notes and dig through those chest tones was completely laudable and absolutely outstanding, thus showing commitment to his craft and continuous vocal strength as well as an overall formidability that he had as both as a singer and as an actor. There was not one vocal flaw that I found with Robert Watson, and he was technically proficient from beginning to end. Albert Pesendorfer continues to exhibit vocal strength as Count Theodor Waldner, all thanks to his signature basso profondo voice. And he continues to be a consistently strong performer all the way through, and he even showed a lot of virility and an overall manliness that I love in many a basso profondo / cantante. So I salute Mr. Albert Pesendorfer for what he continued to accomplish as Count Theodor Waldner. Doris Safel continued to sing up a storm once again as Countess Adelaide Waldner, and her technique was as formidable and sterling as ever. She used her chest tones to her advantage, she continued to sound as fresh as a daisy, and she continued to be as vivacious as a singing actress even to this very day. So high marks also have to go to Doris Zoffel as Countess Adelaide Waldner. Alexandra Hutton continues to do an extraordinary job, all thanks to her silvery and gorgeous light lyric soprano voice as the fortune teller, but I think that she is a lot more suitable singing Zdenka and her music than she is singing the fortune teller, because that is the role I believe, and I will always argue, that Alexandra Hutton's silvery, light lyric soprano voice can be more suitable to sing. So I do hope that one day Alexandra Hutton will get to sing Zdenka, let alone cover for Elena Zalagova in that very same role. Tomasz Blondella might have grown vocally as Count Elema, but he still kind of ducked some of the top notes, although the top notes that he sang in the very first act were a little bit clearer than when he initially sang them. Nevertheless, he was a very committed singing actor who managed to bring in a lot of vivacity, pompousness, and haughtiness to Count Elema. Kyle Miller was still sufficiently dashing as Count Dominic, all thanks to his fine lyric baritone voice, which does have the potential to become deeper and richer, and Tyler Zimmerman's efforts as Count Lamoral, all thanks to his fine bass baritone voice, which can also grow in depth and richness, also continued to emit youthful virility and masculine charm in that very same role. And Hye-Young Lee as the Fiakerumili actually grew very well vocally, and there is definitely still that potential for her to grow as a complete coloratura soprano so long as she develops her chest tones well as make everything from top to bottom completely homogeneous throughout all the registers, and also continue to be as dedicated and committed as a singing actress. I also have to give mad props to Jörg Schörner as Velko, Michael Jamak as Dura, Robert Hebenstreit as Jankel, Heiner Bossmeier as the waiter, and Silke Briel, Lea Hopp, and Janitz Baby as the camera team for what they were able to do in these minor yet very important roles. So overall, the singing did improve to varying degrees from when I first heard in the premiere, with certain singers such as Elena Zalagova, Robert Watson, Doris Soffel, and Albert Pesendorfer growing in strength, and Hye-Young Lee and Alexandra Hutton showing a lot of consistency, unless I forget about Tomasz Blondell, Kyle Miller, and Tyler Zimmerman, and to some extent Russell Brown, but I still have to give loads of adulation to Gabriela Scherer in terms of her capabilities as a singing actress, as Arabella, because of the commitment that she was able to pull off, as well as what she was able to do when she sang over that orchestra in certain moments. As I stated before, my only recommendation is that she sticks to the full lyric / spinto soprano repertoire and not be too easily tempted with more dramatic roles, because that is where I feel that her voice can and should remain. Not just with Arabella, but also with the Marschallin, Donna Elvira, Countess Almaviva, both Fiordiligi and Dorabella, and maybe more engagements as Eva Pogner from Meistersänger von Nürnberg, Elsa from Lohengrin, and Elisabeth from Tannhäuser. I can only wish Gabriela Scherer loads of luck with what she's going to continue to accomplish as a singing actress, and even with those few caveats that she had as a singer, that did not take away from the commitment that she had as Arabella. But it was ultimately Elena Zalagova and Robert Watson, especially Elena Zalagova, who stole the show respectively as Zdenka and Matteo. Still, the one who ranks at the very, very top for me was Elena Zalagova as Zdenka, all thanks to her pristine technique and her unparalleled commitment to her craft as a singing actress. The conducting done by Sir Donald Runnicles continued to be as crisp and as strong as ever, although there were times that the orchestra did drown out Russell Brown in terms of what he was singing in the penultimate moments of the opera. Nevertheless, there was sufficient excitement, there was sufficient interest, and I could always rely on the chorus and orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin to deliver such stirring and exciting music. So overall, I still have to give major props to Gabriela Scherer in terms of what she was able to accomplish as Arabella. Even though I did find her tone rather wobbly and kind of problematic in some areas, there was still that steeliness that was evident in her voice that I still liked, and there was still that commitment that she had as a singing actress that cannot be paralleled. But it was ultimately the younger sister, Zdenka, sung by Elena Zalagova, who continued to steal the show, all thanks to her unparalleled technique as well as her overall commitment as a singing actress. So I still have to give both Gabriela Scherer and Elena Zalagova loads of props for what they were able to accomplish as the sisters Arabella and Zdenka. And for those of you who caught this particular production of Strauss's Arabella at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what did you think of it? Did you feel that Gabriela Scherer was sufficiently good as Arabella? Did you feel that Elena Zalagova continued to steal her thunder as Zdenka? Was there another singer who stole both the thunders of Elena Zalagova and Gabriela Scherer combined? Or did you feel like the singing was very inadequate? Please comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for my review of Strauss's Arabella at the Deutsche Oper Berlin starring Gabriela Scherer as Arabella. Tune in next time for my review of the Liederabend Deutsche Tradition starring Florina Stucki, Philipp Jekal, and Attilio Glaser, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. So until then, good night everybody.